We know now in hindsight that Meghan never really intended to stay. Her guest list to her wedding showed her real ambition was to be a star in California, and Harry's friends were excluded from the guest list in the evening from the dinner. So we know that the agenda was something which the royal family could never really get to grips with, and that's why their reaction once the assault came through the Oprah Winfrey and through Netflix interviews was lame and self-defeating. They should have been far more aggressive in their response to assert their own credibility.
Welcome back to Clout Therapy, where we spill the internet's messiest tea. And today, it's juicy. A mysterious late-night email has the royal world in a panic. It simply read, "They're real and they're coming out. No name, no explanation, just pure chaos waiting to happen." Now all eyes are on Prince Harry and Meghan Markle as rumors swirl about leaked tapes that could wreck everything they've worked to build. From cryptic headlines to frantic palace whispers, this story's got drama, scandal, and maybe even revenge. We're breaking down exactly what these tapes are, why they could be so damaging, and who might be behind the leak. If you live for high-stakes celebrity chaos, you're in the right place. This is Clout Therapy. Before she was the Duchess, Meghan Markle was a working actress hustling in Hollywood. Best known for her role on Suits, but always networking, always making the right connections. When she married Prince Harry in 2018, the guest list made headlines. Not just for who was there, but for who wasn't. Hollywood heavyweights filled the pews: Oprah, Clooney, Serena Williams. But many of Harry's oldest friends, nowhere to be seen at the reception. To some, it looked like Meghan was curating her new circle. And it wasn't British aristocracy. Fast forward to now, and a growing theory says Meghan's endgame was never life in the UK at all. That fairy tale Windsor Castle moment, just a stepping stone. Her real prize, a California comeback and a brand with global reach. And if these tapes are real, they might show just how far she was willing to go. The moment that mysterious email landed in a Hollywood publicist's inbox, the ripple effect was instant. Within minutes, calls were flying across continents. Frantic voices from Buckingham Palace trying to get details, and equally panicked whispers in Beverly Hills asking, "Is this real?" Everyone knew the stakes. If these tapes were what people thought they were, this wasn't just another royal headline. This was brand-destroying stuff. And then a familiar name popped up in the mix: Tom Bower. In the world of royal reporting, his name is practically a warning label. Decades in the game, a career built on digging where no one else dares. He's the guy who doesn't just uncover skeletons, he drags them into the spotlight and leaves them there for the world to gawk at. And according to insiders, Bower's fingerprints are all over this leak. Not because he recorded the tapes himself, but because of his alleged role in their timing. People say he's been sitting on them for months, maybe longer, quietly watching the headlines, waiting for the moment when dropping them would cause maximum chaos. Why? That's the million-dollar question. Revenge, relevance, or just a good old-fashioned scoop? But here's the part that has Hollywood and the palace both sweating. These aren't boring, formal interviews. They're raw. They're messy. They're Harry talking like Harry, not like the carefully rehearsed version we've seen since he and Meghan stepped back from royal duties. No scripted sound bites, no Netflix editing room magic, just him, unfiltered, unguarded, and, from what we've heard, deeply unflattering toward the people closest to him. And we're not just talking about distant relatives or royal aides. The whispers say these comments cut right into his inner circle. Maybe even friendships he swore he'd protect. That's what makes these tapes so dangerous. In the public eye, Harry and Meghan's entire brand hinges on authenticity, unity, and moral high ground. But if what's on these recordings is true, the cracks in that image aren't just hairline fractures. They're wide open fault lines. And Tom Bower, he's standing there with a spotlight, ready to make sure the whole world sees them. So, what's actually on these so-called tapes? According to sources who claim to have heard them, the first clip is already a nightmare for Harry's media team. In it, he's reportedly complaining about some of the very media partners who've paid him millions. And it's not just mild criticism. There's a mocking tone, like he's laughing at the deals he's made and the people behind them. Then comes tape 2, and this one's even worse. Harry allegedly says, "The trauma is the brand." 4 little words that could unravel years of carefully packaged mental health advocacy. It flips his public image from the empathetic, wounded prince to someone who sees pain as just another PR strategy. And then there's tape 3, the one that has both royal watchers and Meghan's own fan base holding their breath. In it, Harry reportedly makes subtle digs at Meghan herself. Not cruel, not explosive, but enough to suggest frustration with their joint projects, and maybe even with how much of his identity is tied to their brand as a couple. Taken together, these moments paint a picture that's completely at odds with the Harry we see in interviews, the thoughtful, humble man fighting for change. Instead, we get glimpses of a prince who's cynical, entitled, and maybe even tired of the very narrative he helped build. If these tapes are real, they don't just chip away at his image, they could completely flip the public's perception overnight. The fallout hit Hollywood like a quiet earthquake. No explosions, just sudden, subtle shifts that everyone in the industry noticed. Streaming deals that were in the final stages suddenly got paused. Invitations to A-list events quietly pulled back. No official statements, just that cold silence that means you've been benched. Charities that once fought to have Harry and Meghan as headliners are now hesitating, worried that association could spark backlash. Brand partners are in limbo, weighing whether the shine of royal fame is worth the risk of becoming part of the scandal. Behind the scenes, PR insiders are calling it exactly what it looks like: brand sabotage. And the cruel twist? They believe it came from inside Harry's own world. Not a tabloid hit job, not a random leak, but someone close enough to know exactly what to say, and when to say it, to cause maximum damage. In Hollywood, betrayal sells. But when it's personal, it can also destroy. While Harry's name is being ripped apart in headlines, Meghan has stayed completely silent. No joint statement, no united front, no Instagram post with a carefully chosen black and white photo. Nothing. And in the world of high-stakes PR, that's rarely accidental. Silence can be a weapon, a shield, even a signal to potential partners that she isn't the one in trouble. Sources close to her circle say this is calculated. The thinking? Let the scandal swirl around Harry while she stays above the noise. But behind the scenes, something even more interesting is happening. She's reportedly been making subtle shifts in her public brand, booking solo speaking events, developing individual media projects, even tweaking her social presence. And eagle-eyed fans have noticed the Sussex co-branding is fading. No more constant Harry and Meghan packaging. Instead, it's Meghan Markle again. By itself, maybe nothing. But in the middle of a scandal this big, it looks a lot like someone building an escape hatch, a way to step away without getting dragged down. The question is she protecting their future together or preparing for a very different one? And then there's Buckingham Palace. Their silence might seem polite, but in royal terms, it's brutal. The monarchy thrives on control, and when they erase you from the conversation entirely, it's their way of saying, you don't exist here anymore. No denials, no defenses, just a cold, clinical cut from the narrative. Meanwhile, in Hollywood, the reaction is just as telling, and maybe more dangerous. None of Harry's major industry partners have stepped forward to defend him. No carefully worded statements of support. No public loyalty. Insiders say that's not by accident. Some partners may have already known exactly what was on these tapes and simply decided to wait until the truth came out on its own. That way, they could distance themselves without looking disloyal. And the internet? It's pouring gasoline on the fire. Snippets, transcripts, and theories are everywhere. Screenshots flying across group chats, audio clips going viral faster than lawyers can send takedowns. Once the story's out there, it's out there forever. And in 2025, the worst thing for a celebrity isn't that people believe the rumor. It's that the rumor becomes the story they're remembered for. For Harry, that clock may have already started ticking. The second those tapes hit the internet, Harry went into full lockdown mode. Insiders say his reaction was pure rage, pacing the room, slamming doors, firing off messages to anyone he thought could have leaked them. Meetings were canceled. Appearances were quietly scrubbed from calendars with vague scheduling conflicts. Behind the scenes, his legal team moved fast, blasting out cease and desist letters, threatening lawsuits, and warning media outlets not to touch the story. But here's the cruel twist. The harder they pushed to erase it, the bigger it got. Social media lit up with hashtags. People who'd never cared about royal gossip were suddenly hunting for the clips. Group chats filled with blurry screenshots and voice memos claiming to be from the tapes. Every legal threat only confirmed there was something worth hiding. By nightfall, the leak wasn't just a scandal. It was a spectacle. And Harry's fury? It was the gasoline keeping the fire alive. Once the initial chaos faded, the reality started to settle in. And it was ugly. In private circles, people began whispering about Harry's reliability, not just as a business partner, but as a friend. Could you trust him? Could you work with him without becoming part of the next headline? In Hollywood, that kind of doubt is poison. Studios started quietly pressing pause on negotiations. Brand partners hesitated to renew deals. Investment boards labeled him high risk. Meanwhile, Meghan's name was still in the mix, but the offers were telling. Speaking gigs, brand partnerships, even a few TV pitches, all for her alone. No Sussex co-branding, no joint appearances, just Meghan. And while publicly nothing had changed, privately, it was clear. In the eyes of the industry, only one half of the royal power couple was still bankable. The most brutal blow wasn't the headlines. It was the split-screen reality the public now saw. On one side, Stage Harry, the empathetic, thoughtful, wounded prince who built his post-royal life on advocacy, vulnerability, and moral high ground. On the other, Tape Harry, sarcastic, mocking, cynical, and dismissive toward the very causes he'd championed. The contrast was jarring, and it didn't take long for the internet to pick a side. Memes, comparisons, and commentary flooded timelines. In just 48 hours, his narrative shifted from a man taking control of his destiny to someone scrambling to hold onto a version of himself that no longer matched what people had heard. The saddest part? That fight for control might already be lost. Because once the world hears a different version of you, the old image is gone, and no amount of palace drama or Netflix gloss can bring it back. Years of careful branding, millions spent on image, all shaken by a few minutes of unfiltered words. That's the power of a leak. It doesn't just tell a story, it rewrites it. And now, the question hanging over everything. Is this the beginning of the end for the Sussex brand? Or can Harry somehow claw his way back? Because in Hollywood and the royal world, comebacks are rare, and forgiveness is even rarer. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think the tapes are a fatal blow, or just another chapter in their never-ending drama? Hit like, smash that subscribe button, and turn on notifications because next time we're digging into Meghan's alleged behind-the-scenes moves. And trust me, that tea is piping hot.